He looked at her across the room and everything in him went quiet. The laughter, the noise, the lights, they all faded. For a split second, it felt like the universe had paused just to let him see her. Her hair, her skin, her scent drifting through the air like some invisible spell. He told himself it was love. But Freud would have smiled and said, "No, my friend, that's lust." Because every love, no matter how poetic or pure it looks on the surface, begins with that first raw flicker of desire. That spark you feel in your body before your heart even knows what's happening. It's not romantic. It's biological. It's ancient. And it's the truth no one wants to say out loud. You see, the modern world loves to dress love in flowers and fairy tales. We talk about soulmates, about meant to be. But under every heartbeat of romance is something far more primal, the chemistry of need. That's what Freud meant when he said all love starts from sexual instinct. He wasn't destroying love. He was exposing its roots. When he first saw her, his brain released a cocktail of chemicals. Dopamine, adrenaline, phenylethylamine. His pupils dilated. His heartbeat quickened. He thought it was destiny, but it was nature. Evolution whispering, this one could carry your future. That's the machinery behind every love at first sight. Not poetry, biology, not angels, hormones. But here's the beauty. Without that raw beginning, love wouldn't exist, because lust isn't the enemy of love, it's the doorway to it. It's the chaos that brings two people close enough to create meaning out of madness. Freud believed we spend our lives pretending to be civilized while our instincts drive the wheel. Every romantic word, every promise, every act of devotion, somewhere beneath it all is the body's silent craving to merge, to connect, to continue. That craving built empires. It wrote songs. It painted the ceilings of cathedrals. Lust is the architect. Love is the illusion we build on top. He kept seeing her after that first night. He convinced himself it was her kindness, her soul, her mind. But deep down, he knew the truth. It was her presence, her movement, the way she existed inside his senses. He wasn't in love with who she was yet. He was in love with how she made him feel. That's how it always begins. You fall in love with the emotion someone awakens inside you, not with the person themselves. And that's where most people get lost. They think love is spiritual from the start. But real spirituality comes later, if it comes at all. At first, it's fire, not philosophy. Men especially mistake lust for love. Their brains are wired to respond in seconds. Visual creatures built by millions of years of instinct. A curve, a scent, a glance, and something ancient takes over. He thinks this is the one. But it's not destiny speaking, it's dopamine. Still, that illusion is what drives him forward. He'll chase, he'll build, he'll conquer, all to possess that feeling again. That's why Freud said civilization itself is a side effect of desire. Men create worlds to impress the women who ignite their instincts. And women, they feel lust too, but differently. Freud called it the erotic foundation of affection. It's not just the body, man, it's the safety, the warmth, the admiration that awakens her desire. When she feels seen, desired, protected, her body answers. She may call it love, but it's the same fire wearing a softer face. The biology is shared, only the language changes. When she looked at him, she saw confidence, presence, energy. She didn't analyze it, she felt it. Her body recognized something familiar, something magnetic. And when she smiled, he thought it meant affection. But really it was chemistry, a dance between two nervous systems wired to seek connection. The mind just writes the story afterward. And that's what most of love really is, a story our minds write to explain what our bodies already decided. Freud saw through it. He said every act of love begins as an act of the libido. The libido isn't just sex, it's the life force, the engine of creation. It's what makes us crave art, beauty, touch, meaning. Without it, life feels hollow. So yes, every love starts with lust, but it doesn't have to end there. Because once that desire pulls two people close, something else can happen. Understanding, compassion, attachment. The body creates the spark, but the soul can learn to keep it alive. That's the transformation Freud hinted at but never fully explored, how lust evolves into intimacy. At first, love is obsession. Constant thoughts, the rush of uncertainty, the thrill of being wanted. Your body is addicted to the feeling. You check your phone for a message. You wait for their voice. It's a high, but slowly, the storm calms. The dopamine fades, replaced by oxytocin, the bonding hormone. What began as hunger becomes comfort, the fire becomes a glow. That's when lust becomes love. Not because it disappears, but because it changes form. From craving to care, from desire to devotion. Freud understood the beginning, but the ending belongs to something beyond science, the human choice to stay. But most people don't reach that stage. They get addicted to the beginning. They chase the spark over and over, mistaking novelty for connection. It's why modern relationships burn fast and fade faster. We want the chemical high, not the emotional depth. We want the falling, not the building. He remembered that first night, the way her eyes pulled him in. Months later, he realized he didn't even know their color. He just remembered how they made him feel. That's lust's magic trick. It paints fantasy over reality. You fall for the idea, not the individual. And when reality shows up, people call it heartbreak. But it's not heartbreak, it's withdrawal. Because the truth is, love and addiction share the same pathways in the brain. That's why the first stages of romance feel euphoric. It's dopamine flooding your system. That's why losing someone feels like dying. It's your brain craving the chemical rush it lost. Freud called it repetition compulsion, our tendency to chase the same emotional patterns again and again, hoping one day they'll lead to peace. Every time you say, "This time it's different," your body is whispering, "Maybe this time the chemistry will last." But chemistry fades, always. That's not tragedy. That's nature. Because if the fire never cooled, we'd never survive. No one can live forever inside a storm. Love matures when two people learn to live after the storm. When they can sit in silence and still feel connected. When the body calms and the soul steps in. But even then, the memory of that first lust never truly dies. It becomes a ghost that visits when they touch, when they remember, when they dream. That's why old couples still hold hands, not because they forgot desire, but because they evolved it. The spark that began as lust transformed into loyalty. And yet, at its core, it's still the same energy, the same fire that started everything. Freud would have said that's proof he was right, that all love is just lust wearing a crown, but maybe it's more than that. Maybe lust is the language life uses to start the conversation of love. Because think about it, if we never felt desire, would we ever risk heartbreak? Would we ever write songs, paint pictures, build futures, or cross oceans for another person? Probably not. Desire is what makes us human enough to chase meaning. It's the reason art exists. It's the reason civilization keeps moving forward. So maybe Freud was right, but not in a cynical way. Maybe he wasn't saying love is just lust. Maybe he was saying love is lust, refined, tamed, transformed, like fire becoming light, like hunger becoming creation. He looked at her one morning, and same woman, same eyes, but something had changed. The rush was gone, but in its place was peace. He didn't need her the way he once did. He chose her. And that's the quiet difference between lust and love. Lust says, "I want you." Love says, "I still want you, and even when I don't need to." Freud might call that the ego mastering the id, maybe. Or maybe it's simply what it means to be human. To begin with desire and end with devotion. Every love you've ever had started the same way. A glance, a spark, a heartbeat that didn't belong to logic. And in that moment, the oldest story in the world began again. Two bodies pretending to be souls, two souls pretending to be more than biology, both secretly serving the same purpose, to keep life going. That's the secret no romance novel will ever tell you. Love doesn't come from heaven, it rises from the flesh. It crawls up through our instincts and becomes something divine only when we let it. Freud saw the beginning. We live the transformation. So the next time you fall for someone, don't be ashamed of that first pull in your gut. That's nature reminding you that you're alive. That's the ancient signal that built every story, every kiss, every heartbreak. Every love begins the same way, with lust, with longing, with that uncontrollable hunger that turns strangers into destinies. Freud was right. Every love starts with lust. But what we do after that, that's where the story becomes ours.